Good morning, Art and Answers. I hope everyone is really getting into the spirit of the holiday. It is certainly upon us. And today we're going to be talking about reflect, reset, and rise. So we're going to reflect on this past year, 2025. We're going to talk about ways to get your mind into a reset modem so that you can rise and have a successful 2026. I feel like I have a piece of lint or something right on. So anyway, I'm really excited about today. I have worked really hard on your tutorial to teach you how to do these things. And so because of that, I don't want to forget anything. So I will be I'm going to read you some of the lesson today as opposed to just trying to do something creative with my hands and think it through and tell you all the things like I usually do. And I usually do pretty well. But sometimes I get done and I thought, oh, I forgot a whole section. Now, you usually get that because I offer the written materials, and you'll be getting some written materials for today as well. Just kind of the cliff notes, the short sheet, the questions to ponder, I suppose. But after you listen to the things I have to say, that little note will make a lot more sense. I think, let me swipe, see if anybody, I see someone is here. Oh, Tony's here. Good morning. So I have a lot on my table to show you, and I'm really excited about it. We have spent a year in Art and Answers creating all this wonderful art. And I thought I would go through and show you. You've already seen my versions, but I thought we would go through and talk about it. And today's whole thing is about, if you want to, I'm going to bind mine into a book. Now, I don't profess to know everything about everything, and I'm not against asking for help. We've had guest artists in here before, and they did a wonderful job, much better than what I would have done, and I will continue to do that in the future. And this month is no different. I'm going to show you some of the ways that I have bound books in the past. I am not an expert. I am not all that good at it, but our guest artist for this month is very good at doing that. It's going to be, excuse me, it's going to be Cheryl Cullen of Cheryl Cullen Art, and we'll talk about her in a little while. But I'm going to turn you down and show you what we have done, what we have accomplished this year. I see Donna. Good morning. So I'm going to come on down here, and you guys, if you have followed along all this year, you also have a stack of these things, and I'm really excited to bind them into a book. So we got started with Art and Answers. Let me get this sort of in the middle where you can see it better. We started in November, and we had a Friendsgiving get together, so to speak, and we did this maze, which I thought was really fun. We did a wet on wet technique and let our colors blend in, and I'm so glad. It was a little forethought, but I'm so glad that we put this margin in here because it may end up being useful for binding our book. Now, if you decide that you do not want to bind your book, I totally understand. It is a little scary because you gotta you gotta either punch holes or do something to your actual artwork. But so we did Friendsgiving, and this was, of course, May's. Then we did Dreaming in December, and we talked about, much like we're going to talk about today, but I just have learned so much this year that I wanted to share it, and it's going to be much more involved and really a lot more enriching, I believe. So I really love this little moon here, and you're going to be excited in January. You're probably going to see a little similarity to that one. This was a bonus that I did just to kind of help you decide on your word of the year, which for 2024, because we weren't, I just went ahead and did the year before, was sustain and accelerate. This year was bloom and sparkle, and I believe that I actually fulfilled that, and I hope you did too. But what we did was bring the year in focus, which was why the glasses. And for each month, we decided different things, things that had happened, just as a matter of reflecting, just as an exercise to be able to go through and reflect on 2024 so that we could move into 2025. Panda was wonderful. We had 5 days worth of reflecting into our life and deciding on things that would really push us forward. But Panda was a mixed media piece of artwork, and it's so detailed, and of course this was all glued on there, and I just loved it. This was I dare say my favorite, but I really do. I love Moon too. I really did enjoy this, and I think you all did too. February was, I'm going to move this for a moment, was all about reflecting and, self-love, pocket of love. And we wrote ourselves a letter. And because we wrote ourselves a letter, and I knew that I wanted to bind these eventually, I knew that that might be a secret thing. So I'm going to put a ribbon on here and tie these two together. So this was sort of a privacy sheet. We do have one member that loved this design so much, she made it into a card for her mother for her birthday. So, you never know. You can always use all these designs in other ways. That's just up to you. So, but I thought the daffodils were beautiful. That's appropriate for February. And so our little pocket here was made to house our letters. And if you made this design, tell me in the comments if you made this design. And then I wrote my letter, and I decided that I would give myself some inspiration. This is how to write this letter so that I can remember it in the future. And it says, to reflect on your past year or a past situation. Imagine, create a fun prediction, write down a personal growth, and maybe some fun closing thoughts. And so something that kind of was important to me last year were these two things. One of them was trust yourself. You know more than you think you do. A friend of mine told me that, and it just rang true. I thought, that is so true. We just don't give ourselves benefit or celebrate the fact that we're learning all the time. And things that excite you are not random. They're connected to your purpose, and so you need to follow them. And then I wrote my letter, and I was pleasantly surprised. I don't know why I did this, but I was pleasantly surprised to see that I had given myself a little gift for the future. So you just never know. These things are so fun. But if you write letters to yourself, make sure you don't lose them. Make sure that you know where you put them and when you're supposed to read them, because everything is connected. Excuse me. It's been cold, so the heat's on, everything's dry. Then in March, we did collage. We made all of our collage papers, and remember, we used our trash stash, and we made all these papers and then created them into a collage. And I sort of put mine together with a little frame just to finish it out, make it look a little more professional. I see that this one is upside down because my signature 305 is on there. So I'm glad I noticed that before I bound that into the book. Then this one was Truly Me. This is called Truly Me. And I really enjoyed this. I got the impression from a lot of people that you enjoyed this as well. It's not really mixed media, although there is watercolor in the back, and that you can hear it that I put clear gesso on there so that I could then come back with the acrylic pens. And this was super fun. I kind of started off with maybe the thinner, more youthful me, and I ended up with a more current version of me, a little more wise with with the body. And then May, we learned how to use masking fluid and created these tulips and in a stained glass window, which I really enjoyed a lot. And actually how to remove the masking fluid without damaging the paper. And if you damage the paper, how to fix it, right? Sometimes you really need to know. Oh, I'm kind of checking out. I see Donna says that she's looking forward to her letter. Yeah, I was too. I was very pleased with what it was when I said to myself. So, all right. And then we went with this one was Mountain Guide. It was all about balance and wellness and the things that we can do to really self-care, really do some things to nurture our health and our well-being. And I thought this was a lot of fun, learning how to do all the mountain ranges and the fact that it gets richer and richer and darker while it comes toward you. I do love the fussy cutting design. That's sort of just my signature style aspect. But that was a really fun one. This one were the random acts of kindness cards that we made. And I don't have very many left because I've given a lot of mine away, which is the whole purpose of the random acts of kindness cards. But something that I did not present in Art and Answers was this little, because I wanted to include them in my book. So I created this little page, and I used two-sided tape and it's not sticking very well. So that's a lesson right there. But I made this little extra page. I'll just take it out so you can see. So, and I couldn't decide whether I wanted, to have those in there like that or put the paper so you could see them more easily. But the nice thing about all that is that can be decided later. It doesn't matter. And you'll see when I get to the books that I haven't decided on that either. And that's okay, as long as you come back to things and don't, don't chastise yourself for things that are left undone. Sometimes that's all right. So, all right. So then we had play, where we created these fun little characters, movable or not. I did one movable and one that was not. But we have to give ourselves permission to play. And this was just a really fun project. Let's see, Donna says, oh, the money idea is good. I guess unless you needed $20 and you didn't have it, you didn't know where it was. All right, so this one is mitosis, and the bonus one with botanical boho. And they were just both really beautiful with the metallic colors. You can see as I'm moving them around, and I love that they're two totally different. That, you know, this is very cool and this is very warm, but we learned how to just kind of go with the flow, really. Some of these pages, like this energy tracker, went with this lesson, and how to get some energy. And I thought to myself, there are some of these pages that, this is one that I haven't filled out yet. I have filled out mine, but I thought maybe I would put some pockets on the back of some of these lessons and put these in there. Maybe even shrink it down a little bit so it would fit a little better. But like I said, there's parts of this project that I haven't really thought through. And October was a rough month for me, as you all know, but I was so thankful that Tony Landis and Terry Broyles came as our guest artists and gave this lesson. Tony did this with texture paint and her Wicked palette knife. It was so awesome. And she did a beautiful job. And Terry Broyles gave the lesson, a biblical lesson, on how to forgive others and yourself. And I really got a lot out of that. She brought to light something I didn't even know, that once God has forgiven you for something, he forgets it. And so why are we holding on to that and killing ourselves over it? If it doesn't weigh enough for God to hold on to, then we should allow it to go as well. So forgiveness, I think, was a really wonderful thing. And I know I've told you in the past, but I planned this whole year out a year ahead of time, and it was just so prophetic that this particular one came in October because of the events that were in my life and consequently your life. And so this was last month. This was Simplicity Flows, and this was really a lot of fun. It's supposed to be simple. It's supposed to soothe your mind and just play. It's just something comfortable to make you relax. And it was really turned out to be beautiful. So those are the pages that are going to be in my book. Like I said, I'm thinking about putting some pockets on the back side and putting some of the instructional information that was provided during the year, so that it will truly be a reference where I can go back not only creatively, like how did I manage, how did I do that technique, but also what did I learn from the lesson, from the subject that was in that month. So that's that. I hope that you have a stack of those. I'm not sure, but you can go back, and because Facebook has deleted all of our videos, I have all of our videos, and I'm still slowly but surely adding the links back for those videos so that you can reference them. So, like I said, I don't know a lot about binding. Cheryl does. She's going to teach us. But in the meantime, I'm going to give you the lesson while I'm gluing this particular style. There are a lot of styles of books, of binding books, And I'm just going to kind of give you some ideas, and then I'm going to teach you how to reflect, reset, and rise while I'm gluing this one all together. So if you were in the Create-a-thon community in the fall of last year, you saw me do this intuitive journal. And I showed you how to put this whole thing together, use an awl to put holes in it, and then sew it in a certain, certain order, I guess, so that it will come out bound like this. And I love this idea. Oops, I got a piece that's coming loose here. And I love this design, but this is a smaller version because it's a folded over standard size piece of paper. So the principle behind doing this is also going to be used in some of these. I'm not sure exactly which style of binding Cheryl's going to present, but we will probably present more of them in the future. We'll just keep it simple and do whichever one she decides. So this is one style. Another style, and these are just samples that I made small just so I could see how to do it. But another style is an accordion style book, which we can do with our pages. It will make it very large. But the fun thing about an accordion style book is it can be displayed, you know, as a star or whatever. It can be displayed open like this, or you can just open it straight out like this so you can see everything, or you can open it just like a book. And when you get to the end, you turn it over and you can see the other side. So you have twice as many pages. And what I did with this one is something that I'm thinking about doing with what I'm going to be gluing today. But I'll see how Cheryl does hers, and I may like hers better. But I just took pages, added pages, and I just bound them with string. This one needs to be a little tighter. But that way I can have my pages inside my accordion book. Another way that I'm playing around with is I took my pages and I put literally white duct tape so that it's really sturdy. There are better materials made for this, and I'm learning as I'm going, but I took this and I'm going to sew this across. I'm considering using my sewing machine, although this has an adhesive on the inside, and I'm afraid it's going to bind up the needle. So I may have to do this, you know, by hand, just to bind these pages together. And then once I did that, I thought, you know, these pages came out of this book, which is already made beautifully, professionally by a company. So I thought, all right, I can decorate the front and the back at cover. This is already made for these pages, and we can bind them in there and literally have your own book. Now, one thing I did think of is the artwork does need to be trimmed down just a little bit so that it fits inside this a little better, more like a book. These are just ideas. I'm not trying to boggle your brain. And another idea I had was, if you have a magazine or even a bound book that you're not going to use anymore or whatever, you can take these pages. Again, you may have to cut them down a little bit, but you could literally glue them to each page. Or I think I would glue a few pages together just to make them a little more sturdy, and then glue the next one, you know, however you want. So you're actually using an already bound book for the backbone of your book. So I'm not exactly sure when Cheryl is going to be able to do this for us. She's having some family things going on in her life, just like all of us do. And we're hoping for the 17th. I'm not certain, but you will be the first one to know about it. Oh, you like those colors, Donna? I bet you're talking about that accordion book. They are really beautiful. Oh, a calendar would be good. Yeah. So, the whole idea is use your imagination, right? So, as I begin to glue all this down together, I have your whole lesson over here, and I'm going to kind of start going through it. So, how is it that, how to reflect over the past year? Reflection is not nostalgia. It's not self-criticism. It's not a highlight reel. Reflection is an act of witnessing your own life through the honesty and compassion and curiosity of looking at your own life. And when we reflect, we become the student and the teacher of your own lives. We ask our life to speak to us, and we can actually learn if we listen. So this is acrylic medium, and I have some dedicated materials that I use this stuff because it is really, once it's dried, it's glued. I mean, it's on there. And I know that this is going to go through this fabric onto my table, but I have a shower curtain that is cut in half on my table, and so I'm good with that. But you do need to be aware of your surroundings so that you don't end up gluing your book to your table, And when you guys see this fabric, you're going to say, oh my gosh, that is so you. It really is. So you think to yourself, how in the world, how do I do this? How do I reflect on this? I drew these lines. Here it is. I drew on here so that you would have it, because you want it very precise. You want everything lined up very precise. So you don't want to judge. You want to ask yourself, where did I grow? And where did I get stuck? What surprised me? What softened me? What kinds of things mattered and turned out that it mattered and you were surprised? And what kinds of things happened that you thought you would have been a mess about, but turned out you were okay with? No big deal, right? You're not looking for good and bad. You're just looking as a teacher. This is not a scoreboard. This is just a way to get in touch with what's going on in your life. And so you want to look for patterns and themes, reoccurring emotions or repeated choices. Maybe you decide to quit something over and over again. I mean, why? What's the purpose? What's causing you to go back to those things? You want to honor the progress and the fails. What were your wins? Don't worry about this. Remember, I'm going to give you these notes. I have them all typed up, and I'm going to put them in a PDF in the group after I get finished here. But these are just things for you to think about, right now. But you want to honor boundaries that you chose, or new skills, just anything that was a change. I hear the wind is blowing in the right direction. You can hear the train, right? I'm really kind of saturating this fabric. And I'm going to get over here and pull this a little tighter because I don't want those wrinkles in there. I noticed that there were some wrinkles. And we're gonna check this out. So after you've gone through this whole process of reflecting, then you'll be able to go into the reset mode. And reset isn't starting over. It isn't erasing the past. It's resetting is choosing to move forward with intention instead of just being on autopilot. I mean, how often do you feel like you're just going along the way you always did, and then you have the audacity to think, well, why isn't anything different? Well, you didn't do anything to make it different. But that's going to stop now. And you have to release what just isn't you anymore. You have to honor your growth. And you're not meant to drag old versions of yourself into the new year. There's no purpose in that. That doesn't serve you really at all. I have to move this. So reset means that you realign with your values. What do you truly care about? Like I said, rather than being on autopilot, what turns out to be really important to you? What brings to your spirit? What turns you? What lights you up? What turns you on? Now I'm just going back and really pressing this medium into the fabric so that it binds to the cardboard. And while I'm doing that, I'm making sure that there's no wrinkles in the fabric. I don't know about you, but that's a detail that would really bother me. Like when I get a drip of paint, I hate that. It bothers me. So when you reset, you're actually restoring some energy. You're being more deliberate about it. You have to pay attention to just acknowledge the fact that maybe you have burnout or fatigue. Maybe you're overextended and you think, how in the world did I get here? Well, this is the time for you to say, all right, I need to rethink this. And I need to create my new boundaries. What you're trying to do is replenish your spirit. A reset is hope with structure. Don't be vague with your hope. You need to make it something that is intentional and build a plan where you have security, the security of maybe scaffolding underneath. So you need to, how do you plan your growth in the new year? Growth is not a wish. You don't just say, I wish this. You have to put those ideas in place. And it's more like a rhythm than a wish. Making a wish is all a good thing, but a wish without a plan is just a wish. So you have to choose a direction. You don't have to choose a destination. You just have to choose a direction. That takes all the pressure off. Instead of saying, I have to achieve such and such a thing, you think to yourself, well, who do I want to become? None of us are 18. None of us, I remember being 18, and people would tell me these things. Older people would say, oh, you need to have a plan. You need to have it all figured out by the time you're, out of high school. Well, that is a fallacy. That is not true. Many of us are still trying to figure out what our destiny is, what our plan is, who we are, what value we have. But you know what? That's okay, as long as you're trying to figure it out. But when you just stay on autopilot, it makes it much more difficult. So you think, who do I want to become? What identity am I stepping into? Perhaps you're going from, maybe you're a new empty nester. Maybe you're going into a new career. Maybe you're going into a new relationship, a new marriage, a new whatever. You just have to let go of your old self and stick with whatever it is that's serving you now. Destinations shift, and our identity is what carries us. My husband just retired from the fire department. He was in there for 50 years, and let me tell you, that stuff is in his blood. He had the hardest time deciding that that's what he was going to do, because it's so much of his identity. And I really learned something about that when he was going through that process. I was like, yeah, I understand. It's like when your children grow up, who are you now? Are you still needed? Well, yes, you're still needed. So a way to really keep track of who you are, you need to create some small, steady behaviors. And that will create a transition, a huge transition in your life. So, I don't know. So, what are some of your ideas micro habits? What kinds of things? And I would say 15 minutes or so, praying, spending some time with God, whoever your God is. I have certain ideas about my own. weekly art practice, decluttering, a small area of wherever, gratitude journaling, thinking of taking credit for one courageous action, a week. Honor a boundary that you decided on. Keep it in the forefront of your mind. Don't write these things down and make plans and then just forget about them. And one really important thing that we often forget is planning for the obstacles that are going to get in your way. Any good plan is going to come with problems. And it's going to make you want to quit. You can't quit. You can't let that happen. You've put a lot of time and energy into these things. So what are you going to do to prevent that from happening? You have to ask yourself some questions. What kind of things derail me? Where do I tend to lose my momentum? What supports do I need to keep on track? Proactive planning is what separates a dreamer from a grower. You want me to say that again? Proactive planning is what separates dreamers from growers. And lastly, you need to make sure that you have room for mystery. You know, we grow the best when we leave a little margin for God and serendipity, change, maybe new opportunities. Don't plan your life so tightly, and I'm guilty of this. Don't plan your life so tightly that you don't have any room for surprises. So, this book, Bound of Your 2025 Art and Answers Art, is a record of growth. It's not a record of perfection. It's a testament of who you're becoming. And as we bind these pages together, we're going to honor who we were. We're going to release who we no longer are and bring these lessons into our future. I want you to, prepare your hearts for a new year of courage and creativity, purpose and growth. Because I've already got so much of our plan for 2026 going. I'm going to prop this up so it will dry. There we go. I'll bring you back up here. I promise, if you come in and watch the replay, please give me #replay. And I'm going to go back and I'm going to look at all these comments. But don't fret. I've got everything typed up and I'm going to give it to you in the group as a PDF so that you can print it and you can really spend some time reflecting on your life, figuring out how and where you want to reset, and making some goals for 2026. Be a little more intentional about your life and spend some time with yourself and journal and figure those things out. You will be amazed at the end of the year, just like we were from the beginning of last year until now, how much you have learned and how rich you're becoming. So I will let you know when Cheryl Cullen, who is going to be our guest artist, is going to be able to come on and show us specifically how to bind our book. At least one way. There's lots of ways, and you may choose to do some other way. But I wish blessings to you. And we're going to have a wonderful 2026. Thank you. Thank you, Donna. And I will see you soon. Bye-bye.